So Mike Notman is now going to talk about the good things that have been coming out of HTMA and about how that can contribute in the totality to the Highway Maintenance Efficiency Programme. Mike.
Thank you, David, and good afternoon, everybody. And thank you, Steve, as well. I just wondered what had happened to that clock, but yeah. Okay, welcome to the QE2. Welcome to the HTMA Conference. It's a fantastic venue. We've got a great lineup of speakers. We've certainly had a great lineup of speakers so far. Hopefully, myself and James, I'm sure, will keep it going. But it's been great so far, and I hope you've all enjoyed it so far. Like I said, my name's Mike Notman. I am one of the HTMA executive members, and therefore very much working as part of some of the programs that we've heard about today. One of the areas where HTMA is working closely with the HMEP program as part of the efficiencies in terms of contribution towards procurement-related issues. And what we've been trying to do is highlight some of the good ideas that we've got out there that have been delivered by our member companies, by our clients out there, and highlighting some of these as, if you like, best practice. None of the areas that I'm going to cover this afternoon is particularly mind-blowing. It's not rocket science. It's not particularly clever. They're just good ideas. It's just best practice. But when clients can take these good ideas and put them into the right context for their own procurement purposes, then efficiencies will be delivered as a result of using these good ideas. So my job today is just to highlight some of the good experiences we've got. I'm hoping that the work that we're doing in pulling some of these good ideas together will feed into a new project, which you heard about this morning from Mostak. That is a HME Commission project called the Procurement Route Choices Paper. And that will be available to all local and highway authority clients. It will be a tool that will assist clients in making the right procurement choices and making sure that they get a contract that allows them to deliver a first-class service in their area. As local authority clients and highway authority clients out there, and as service providers as well, we're all really aware of the pressures that exist on highway budgets at the moment. We're all living these challenges, we're all living these frustrations, and we're all living these on a day-to-day basis. And at the same time, whilst our budgets are going down, our customer expectations out there are not going down. They're either staying the same, or in some cases, they're actually rising. And therefore, you know, we really have got a stiff challenge to close that gap. Not everybody will have read, I'm sure, the government's UK cost report, which was written about 2 years ago, but that highlighted that with a change of behaviours, together with reformed and better procurement, then we will be able to move towards the 20% savings that we need to make across the industry. But regardless of that report, we're all acutely aware of the savings and the challenges that lie ahead. So the question is, since the writing of that report in 2010, since the start of the HMEP programme, which was launched at this conference in April last year, are we making sufficient progress? Are we doing enough to make that step change towards that 20% target? Well, there's been an update to the report. There was an update done in April this year, and that update concluded that insufficient progress is being made at the moment, and we've yet to make that step change that is required right across the industry to make the savings that we need. I know we're already doing it through the HMEP programme, but as highway engineers and leaders of the highways industry in the UK, you know, we really do have to look at ourselves. We need to look critically at ourselves and ask ourselves whether we've got the vision, whether we've got the desire, and whether we've got the ability to really make these savings that we need to make there. And if we don't, what will happen? Are we going to fall short? Will the sort of lack of decisive action lead us to just do things in the way that we've always done them, and we'll get the same results that we've always got with less budget? And if we do that, we'll leave a legacy of deterioration that will need to be picked up, I guess, by the next generation of highway professionals. But of course, we do know the answer to that question. We have, of course, got the vision, we've got the desire, and of course we've got the ability. We've got the ability sat in this room to succeed. But we must all pull together through the HMEP programme, through all the other ways that we're looking for these savings, and we've got to really pull together as a single team. Paul Morell, who's the outgoing government chief construction advisor, he believes that by better procurement and by better behaviours, that and really about clients knowing what to ask for. If you know what to ask for, you'll get good procurement, and by doing so, we'll meet those savings targets that we need to achieve. So, what role are the HTMA playing in trying to help the industry in meeting these challenges head on to allow these efficiencies and these 20% savings that we need to make to be realised? Well, within the HTMA, we've got 24 full member companies. We've now got 10 associated members, and we collectively are the service providers who are working together to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the industry. We represent virtually all of the frontline services. We represent all of the work that's done out there, including the work done by the local authority DLOs. And we've got a governance structure to match. We've got an executive, we've got volunteers, we've got working groups, we've got lots of people, and all of those people are tackling those strategic issues and trying to make efficiencies across the industry. And in order to help push that agenda forward, we've also developed a paper which is being fed into the HMEP programme. That's entitled Client and Service Provider Engagement for Highway Maintenance. And it's some of the aspects of that I'm also going to cover this afternoon. So, HTMA members recognise, like our clients do, that squeezing costs, squeezing margins, tinkering with service levels, cutting service standards is a very small first step. It's a very small first step that's not a long-term sustainable solution to meeting the problems that we've got. We need to turn our full attention to and our focus onto innovation and much smarter thinking. We need to do things differently, and if we do, huge savings are possible, but only if we pull together. The HTMA believe that efficiencies and savings can be achieved, but we need to do that partly through broader and better engagement of the private sector service providers. You know, it's a given fact that the expertise used to sit, one sat, all in the public sector. But over the years, as the industry's matured and things have moved on, a lot of that expertise has now moved across into the private sector. Now we've got a much better balance of skills across the public sector and the private sector, and that's a point that we shouldn't lose as we try and work together for the good of the industry. And I know you agree with that point, because 96% of you actually agreed with it when the question came up this morning. But we believe, I think, that good procurement is a great starting point for sharing best practice and making these efficiencies. So, and we heard Mustak say this morning, there's 150 local authorities out there, 150 authorities. Many are delivering design, many are delivering management and maintenance services in-house, believing that that is the best solution and the most efficient solution. Now, I know there's no one-size-fits-all, there's no right answer for every local authority, but there's no doubt that the private sector is better geared up and better equipped to make cost savings, to deliver innovation, and to deliver best value from available budgets. It is, however, very difficult for local authorities, smaller local authorities, to get those outsourcing efficiencies. Those packages of work are small and they're unattractive to service providers, and it makes it very difficult for them to outsource and get those savings. So therefore, why are we not seeing more of these smaller authorities being pulled together and clubbing together and going out to the market as one? In a similar way, for example, that Transport for London have done with their TfL contract, pulling in the London boroughs and making that package of work much more attractive and much more palatable for service providers to deliver and actually deliver a better service and a higher quality solution. The industry has sort of moved on quite a bit in recent years. It's matured a lot over recent years. And, service providers these days, either as joint ventures or even as individual companies, are much better able to deliver those end-to-end services that we need delivered on our sort of highway networks. We're also able to do that in a way that's self-monitoring, it's self-regulating, and we can do that while remaining transparent in terms of performance levels. We can do that through KPIs, and we can do it in a way that is transparent to the industry. So again, I'd make the point that there's no one-size-fits-all solution, but there still are a lot of clients out there putting out individual design contracts, managing agent contracts, and delivery contracts to the marketplace. And if these contracts aren't clear on responsibilities, if they're not clear on accountabilities, then all of a sudden more interfaces, duplication, overlap comes in, innovation is stifled, and inefficiency is the result. There's also, in this day and age, there's no reason why the service provider shouldn't be dealing with the frontline customers out there, whether those customers are elected members, whether those customers are road users, residents, or any other stakeholder. But our members still get some reluctance from some clients to allow their service provider to deal directly with frontline customers. That again has just built in another interface, another layer, and some more inefficiency. We had Steve talk about man marking. There's still a tendency out there to do some man marking. There's a tendency to over-audit the workmanship rather than relying on self-certifying and selective audit regimes. All of these things just add up to more cost and create more and more inefficiency. There's often a lot of emphasis put on getting the right form of contract for any given highways commission. And whilst we may have slightly mixed views, generally HTMA members believe that the form of contract used, whilst setting out the protocols for dealing with disputes and compensation events, setting out the constraints and the boundaries for the actual contract itself, the form of contract really is nothing more than a framework for a successful partnership agreement. We believe that it's the spirit of the contract that's important, not the form of contract. And it's culture and relationships which drive success. And I know James is going to talk quite a bit more about this this afternoon. But within the HTMA, our members do work with a variety of different contract types and a whole load of variations of a theme across these contracts as well. And it's not uncommon for new contracts to be developed which are onerous on the new service provider. Onerous in terms of some of the contract clauses and onerous in terms of some of the risk transfer. And even after dialogue and renegotiation and negotiation, it's not uncommon for a number of these onerous contract clauses to remain in place. And the effect of having these clauses is that these are all taken into account when we price those documents. That means we're pricing for some risk. That means that risk may never materialise. And that means clients are paying for something that they maybe never get any benefit from. And I know the HTMA, through the Procurement Working Group, which Steve Ashley heads up, have done some work recently with TfL, they've done some work with Transport Scotland in terms of their new procurement, contract procurement processes around this subject. Martin Duffy's in the room. There is a debate around the use and effectiveness of competitive dialogue. And, you know, that debate isn't just within the HTMA, it's not just within the highways industry. I'm sure it is much, much broader than that. But, you know, whilst our members do have varying views on when and where competitive dialogue should be used, we do all agree on one aspect, and that is that competitive dialogue is sometimes used on contracts which do not warrant it. That means that, you know, contracts where the scope of the contract and the services have already been clearly defined prior to it coming to the marketplace. And again, that inappropriate use of dialogue just adds costs, hidden costs, unhidden costs to both parties, usually with no added value. So in order to achieve lowest cost and best value, it's all about getting a contract that's lean. It's a lean process. Ideally, we'll get there through competitive dialogue, but we need to achieve collaborative working across our contracts, and and that's not difficult. Things like co-location in an open plan office, allowing barriers to be broken down, creating an environment which is more productive and more rewarding will straight away impact on the level of service and the quality of service that's being delivered. So it is relationships that go to the heart of all contracts. It's relationships that set the scene for innovation, for cost certainty, and for high quality services being delivered out there on the network. And good leadership sets that culture, and it sets that culture for teams working together as one to be much more productive. Any relationship breakdown between a service provider and a client quickly becomes apparent. It becomes apparent to the customers out there in terms of the quality of service, and it just becomes apparent in the way that services become less efficient, and it's very, very difficult to hide when relationships do break down. That's not to say there shouldn't be healthy tension between service providers and clients, but the success of our industry does rely on healthy relationships, which can only exist between people. So how many of us have worked on contracts which have involved or different contracts and wonder why highway authorities are specifying different standards or specifying the same types of works but to slightly different standards of that work, and wondered why that was to be. And I'm not again suggesting that every contract should be identical. It is very, very difficult for clients. There's good reasons why contracts should be different out there, but the role of our clients is a tricky one. They've got to match their political needs and their operational needs and their geographical needs and match those with the strategic aims of that authority. However, standardisation of contract spec does enable consistency. It improves output. It means unit costs can be reduced. It means we've all got a better understanding. We've got less ambiguity, fewer claims, and as a result, reduced cost and contract savings, of course. So our members, again, much maturing market. Members have got a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience within the highways industry. We're well placed to take on risk where it is appropriate to do so. Transfer and appropriate risk, will make sure that contract prices are keen. It'll make sure that best value is being delivered. But when we try and transfer risk that's not appropriate to be transferred, then, such as long-term fixed price contracts, such as final salary pension risk, then it's likely that, again, that these risks will be priced, but clients will be paying for something that may well never materialise. So again, risk transfer, done in the right way, done effectively, will become a mechanism for achieving lowest whole life costs. So a bit on the same theme, I guess. As highway service delivery market continues to mature, there's much more scope now for clients to specify outcomes. Rather than specifying inputs or outputs, much more able to specify outcomes. This allows service providers to utilise their experience, they can utilise their skills and their knowledge and everything that they've built up over the years to deliver lower and lower prices. It puts the emphasis on the service provider to deliver much smarter. So, things like winter maintenance, things like street lighting, defects in the carriageway, emergencies, and even carriageway condition index, or pavement condition. Why can't we transfer pavement condition risk in a long-term contract to our service providers out there? The more we can move to an outcome spec, the more the industry will move on, and the more savings that will be achieved on the back of that. There's many contract inflation mechanisms being used in the UK, across the UK at the moment, particularly on highways contracts. We've got things like fixed price, we've got RPI, we've got RPIX, and then we've got a whole selection of Baxter indices and everything else. Until now, we have never had an inflation mechanism that accurately reflects the highways maintenance market, and therefore we've had to really make do with one of the other mechanisms out there and try and make it fit as best we can. As you heard Steve talk about earlier, and gladly Cheshire West have adopted the new mechanism, but the HTMA have been working with Seeker, we've been working with BCIS, and we've recently developed an index series specifically for the highway term maintenance contracts. That data is published monthly. It makes it easier, getting more easy now for clients to use. We're getting it put onto the management systems like Confirm, and all of that helps us to track the exact inflation cost to a service provider and therefore pay them accordingly. This avoids any issue about what we thought was going to happen at tender and what actually happens in reality, and a mismatch being paid for by the client. And it also helps us service providers in terms of our cash flow. So what does all this add up to? What do all these things add up to that I've been talking about this afternoon? Well, it's not easy for clients to make all the right choices, particularly within their own political environment, within their own operational environment, and the strategic aims of their council all have to be taken into account. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, but with the documents that are now available or soon will be available, hopefully making the right procurement choices for highway authorities will be a lot easier, and subsequently savings will be a lot easier to achieve. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you for listening.